Pay for the cheapest room and be quick about it. People like you don't belong here." The words cut through the grand hotel lobby like a whip, freezing conversations mid-laugh. A tall manager in a silver-gray suit leaned over the polished counter, his slick hair gleaming under the chandelier. His smirk spread wide, mocking the couple that stood in front of him. Thomas, his shoulders squared despite the years that weighed on him, tightened his grip on the worn leather suitcase in his hand. Beside him, Margaret's scarf slipped slightly from her head as she lowered her gaze, clutching her faded coat closed. She trembled, not from the morning chill, but from the sting of shame that seemed to hang in the air. A ripple of snickers came from the staff behind the desk. A few wealthy guests nearby paused, some sneering, others whispering as if poverty itself were contagious. Margaret's eyes glistened, her lips trembling as though she might break. But Thomas didn't move. He didn't bow. His eyes locked firmly on the man behind the desk, and the laughter around him seemed to falter. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady, calm but heavy with a strength no wealth could buy. "Son," he said, each word deliberate, "I didn't come here asking for what I cannot afford. I came here to rest for one night after a lifetime of work that helped feed families like yours. This suitcase you mock. It carried the tools that turned soil into food, year after year, so no child in this city went hungry." The words carried farther than his voice should have allowed. The clinking of glasses at the bar stopped. Heels clicking across marble slowed to silence. Even the faint hum of laughter from the far end of the lobby withered away. The manager's smirk faltered. His chin lifted as if to mask the sudden unease that flickered across his face. For the first time, he seemed to notice not just a ragged coat and calloused hands, but a man who had weathered storms larger than his arrogance. Margaret, still trembling, lifted her eyes toward her husband. The steady warmth of his hand covering hers told her that, no matter what cruelty they faced in that gilded lobby, their dignity would not be stolen. "I may wear worn clothes," Thomas said, his voice deep and steady, "but every wrinkle in this shirt was earned with honest work. Every scar on my hands is a chapter in a life spent building, planting, and providing. And if all you see is the cheapest room, then let me tell you something. Cheap does not mean worthless. I've lived a life far richer than these walls could ever hold." The words rolled through the marble hall like a quiet thunder. The woman in the blue blazer behind the counter bit her lip, her earlier smirk vanishing into unease. A man in a tailored suit who had been chuckling shifted uncomfortably, his eyes dropping to the floor as guilt crawled over him. The lobby, moments ago filled with laughter, grew heavy with silence. Margaret, her hand trembling in his, whispered softly, "Thomas, maybe we should just leave." He shook his head, never breaking his stare with the manager. "No, Margaret. People like us have been told to stay quiet too many times. Today, they will listen." The manager's smirk faltered. He cleared his throat, though his voice cracked as he muttered, "Rules are rules. I don't make them." Thomas placed his battered suitcase on the counter and slowly opened it. From inside, he drew a thick leather-bound ledger, its cover worn smooth with years of use. With a firm hand, he set it down, the sound sharp against the polished desk. The echo made heads turn. He opened the book, pages filled with handwritten notes, invoices, and faded receipts. His finger tapped against them. "For decades, my farm supplied the produce that stocked your kitchens. These apples, these grains, these vegetables, you plated them under crystal chandeliers and served them to your wealthiest guests. And now you mock the very hands that helped fill your tables." The truth settled over the lobby like a heavy curtain. A ripple of shame spread across the staff. The woman in the blazer dropped her gaze. Guests who had smirked moments earlier shifted in their seats, some whispering apologies to no one in particular. An elderly woman sitting by the window lifted her hands and began to clap, slowly, deliberately. Another guest joined her, then another. Soon, applause rose from different corners of the room. At first hesitant, then growing stronger, it swelled into a chorus that filled the grand lobby. The sound of it pressed against the chandeliered ceiling, drowning out the ugly laughter that had once stained the air. The manager's face burned red. This time, it wasn't arrogance, it was shame. He fumbled for words, his voice barely carrying over the applause. "Sir, I apologize. Please, take the suite. No charge." Thomas's jaw tightened, but he shook his head. "We didn't come here for handouts. We pay our way, just like anyone else. Nothing more, nothing less. The refusal landed harder than anger ever could. It wasn't bitterness, it was dignity. Margaret's eyes filled, not with humiliation, but with pride. She squeezed his hand as though drawing strength from the unshakable spirit she had stood beside for decades. The applause softened into silence, leaving behind only the weight of respect. The keys were handed to them quietly, without mockery, without laughter. Guests stepped aside as the couple walked toward the elevators, Thomas steady, Margaret leaning on his arm, both of them carrying a quiet triumph. They hadn't just claimed a room. They had claimed their dignity. And in that grand lobby, filled with marble floors and golden light, strangers saw something wealth could never buy: the strength to stand tall when the world tries to make you small. As the elevator doors closed behind them, the once laughing crowd was left hushed, their admiration unspoken but undeniable. Some wiped at their eyes. Others stood in thoughtful silence. Because sometimes the poorest hands carry the richest hearts, and sometimes a single voice can silence an entire room.